Something rather amazing has happened. Something if you told me 10 years ago would happen, I wouldn't have believed you. Captain America Civil War outperformed Batman v Superman at the box office. In fact, it wasn't even close. Looking at reviews and box office numbers, Captain America Civil War smashed Batman v Superman. Think about how absurd that one sounded 10 years ago. Batman and Superman, arguably the two most popular superheroes on the planet, appearing together for the first time on the big screen in a big budget movie, would be outperformed by Captain America Civil War, which is about Captain America and Iron Man, and is the third time those two have appeared on screen together. Captain America and Iron Man 10 years ago would be two of Marvel's most prominent B-list characters. Characters like Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, and the X-Men would each get multiple comic book titles dedicated to their franchise every month. Captain America and Iron Man got one comic book title a month, and also appeared as major characters in the Avengers. At that time, the Avengers was Marvel's second most popular superhero team, far behind the X-Men. How is it possible that the popularity of these characters has shifted so much? Why are far more people interested in a feud between Iron Man and Captain America over a feud between Superman and Batman? It'd be like a feud between Green Lantern and Aquaman, outselling a feud between Spider-Man and Wolverine. Well, to understand how this happened, let's look at how these two cinematic universes started. During the first X-Men film, Kevin Feige was hired on as an associate producer by Lauren Schuler Donner for his knowledge of the Marvel Universe. Impressed with Feige, Avi Arad made him second in charge of Marvel Studios. Marvel Studios at the time would just jump between multiple movie projects and work on them as advisors. It's not the same Marvel Studios we know today. It was clear early on that Feige had planned a shared universe when he arranged cameo for Wolverine played by Hugh Jackman in 2002's Spider-Man. When the time came to shoot the quick scene, Wolverine's costume turned up missing. They weren't able to find it in time, and production on Spider-Man continued Wolverine-less. Feige would go on to advise many Marvel projects throughout the years until 2006, when the film rights on Iron Man came to Marvel Studios after being bounced between Fox, Universal, and New Line since 1990. Marvel decided to self-finance an Iron Man movie, which proved very difficult for the same reason that the film was in limbo since 1990. Many writers wanted to work on more popular superheroes. Marvel actually encountered many people who thought Iron Man was a robot rather than a man in a suit. Also, the fact that this was Marvel's first movie without a major studio behind them discouraged many people. Jon Favreau agreed to direct since he enjoyed working with Avi Arad on Daredevil, and once that happened, the rest of the pieces began to fall into place. Though not all of them, since the script would be a constant problem throughout filming. The actors improvised many of their lines on set.
Let's face it, this is not the worst thing you've caught me doing.
In March 2007, Avi Arad stepped down. Kevin Feige was promoted to president of Marvel Studios. The film was far more successful than anyone thought it would be. While filming Watchmen, Zack Snyder, a key player in the future DC Extended Universe, stated his thoughts on Iron Man's success, warning that if the audience isn't careful, we might end up with Captain America or maybe even Thor movies. What truly got people talking about Iron Man, though, were the rumors started by the people who actually stayed till the end of the credits and saw Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury approach Tony Stark about the Avengers. Iron Man would serve as the first movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. From there, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has grown to become the highest-grossing film franchise in existence, encompassing 7 franchises under the banner of one huge franchise. It was not the first time this was done, but it was easily the first time it was done to this degree of success. Feige's filmography would become far more focused after starting the MCU. Instead of advising on multiple movies from multiple studios, he would produce solely MCU movies, picking directors who he could work well with, and who would work well coordinating the feel of their film with the others in the universe. It has become almost machine-like how Marvel makes movies. But at the same time, they also manage to usually be really well done. Seeing the company's early success, Disney bought Marvel on December 31st, 2009 for $4.24 billion. Even though Disney bought Marvel, it appears as though Kevin Feige is still firmly in control of Marvel Studios, and Disney likely just helps out with the finances. After his success with The Dark Knight, Warner Brothers hired Christopher Nolan to produce and have control over their next biggest comic book franchise, Superman. Warner Brothers had had trouble getting a successful Superman franchise off the ground after Bryan Singer's Superman Returns underperformed in 2006. Nolan became interested in doing a Superman movie when David S. Goyer gave him his pitch on how it would be handled. Nolan and Goyer put together a story that would be scripted by Goyer. Zack Snyder, who was familiar with comic book movies, was brought on to direct. Then, The Avengers hit and was a huge success. Warner Brothers now saw the money to be made off a shared superhero universe. Man of Steel was already too far along to be derailed, but plans for a DC Extended Universe came into play. Christopher Nolan left after Man of Steel. Man of Steel 2 was revealed to feature Batman in a prominent role. A release date of May 2015 was announced, which would have pitted the movie directly against the highly anticipated Avengers sequel. This didn't last too long. To give the movie more time, Warner Brothers pushed back the release to May of 2016, which of course pitted it against the then unknown Marvel film. Marvel has reserved pretty much every summer opening for quite a few years in the future. Marvel revealed that the unannounced movie would be Captain America 3. Eventually, the now titled Batman v Superman would be pushed forward a few weeks. After hearing that DC's next movie would be Batman v Superman, Marvel Studios decided to change its plans for Captain America 3 and go ahead with Civil War, which was a story that the Russo brothers had been wanting to do anyway. Warner Brothers announced a huge slate of films for their upcoming DC Extended Universe. Not to be outdone, Marvel made a very similar announcement not long afterwards. It seemed as though a new comic book movie would be seen every couple of months for the foreseeable future. While Marvel would continue to be helmed by Kevin Feige, Warner Brothers stated the DC Extended Universe would be projects where the director had control. This is questionable though, considering the turnover the DCEU has had with its directors. Wonder Woman and Flash lost their original directors, and rumors are persistent that James Wan may drop out of Aquaman. Zack Snyder would helm Batman v Superman and Justice League Part 1. It did appear as though he would have far more control over the DCEU than anyone else. Both Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice and Captain America Civil War opened to impressive numbers, though both pulled less than projected. Unfortunately, Batman v Superman suffered one of the worst second weekend tumbles ever. The movie pulled in over $850 million worldwide, which would be a rousing success for most movies, but Batman v Superman appeared to have a lot more on the line. The reported budget of the movie was $250 million, but that doesn't include promotion, which usually is about double the production budget. It's rumored that the full budget of the movie and promotion ran about $800 million, but that is just a rumored number. Let's look at these box office numbers and do a little Economics 101. To find the profit of a movie, you simply take the revenue and subtract the cost. I'm going to assume that the budget listed here was the entire cost of the movie, which it never is. Using this formula, we see that not only is Civil War vastly more successful than Batman v Superman, Deadpool was too. Hell, Guardians of the Galaxy came really close. If you were an investor, which would be a more appealing movie to put your money into? The DCEU has even more to worry about now. The brand is hurting after the underperformance of Batman v Superman. When a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie comes out, people wonder if this will finally be the bad one. When a DC Extended Universe movie comes out, people hope that this will finally be the good one. A large part of the problem seems to be that the DCEU seems to want to reinvent their characters rather than base them off their comic book counterparts. Sure, MCU reinvented Mandarin and Yondu a great deal,
The Mandarin!
but the DCEU seems to want to do the same with even their most popular characters. The driving force behind reinventing the characters appears to be Zack Snyder. In a recent Unburied Watchmen interview, he talks about how he felt Batman Begins wasn't dark enough. He says if he were to make a dark Batman movie, he would have him get raped in prison. He also talks about how Superman would be better if he were ripping people's arms off. This sounds like a man who's not really interested in telling a Batman or Superman story as much as he's just interested in telling really dark stories. It explains why both Superman and Batman in his movies are killers. The debate between fans on which of these companies is better has been going on for long before the movies ever became an issue. And the debate actually helps these companies, keeping the big fans interested in these comic book properties. Although there are times where the debaters go too far, such as accusing accusing the other side of taking bribes and other nonsense. The problem right now with pitting these two companies together is that it's incredibly one-sided. Marvel is 13 movies in. DC is 2 movies in. So why even bother comparing them? But at the same time, the reason why it's incredibly one-sided is because DC took forever to actually decide to seriously commit to a shared universe, and once they did, they backed the wrong creative talent to go forward with. Sure, it was smart, and at that time, I would have absolutely backed Christopher Nolan in any superhero project he wanted to do. But Zack Snyder clearly has no interest in actually telling these comic book stories, and just wants to do his own thing with these characters. And when you take characters as well known as this, and just do your own thing with them, it feels like a betrayal to the fans. At this point, it just feels like Marvel vs. DC is Marvel standing over DC, kicking them in the gut while they're down. But you can't even blame Marvel for doing that. All Marvel's doing is making good movies. If you like Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, that's awesome. But clearly, looking at the numbers, most people didn't. And no matter which side you prefer, it's important that both sides put out the best quality product available. The reason why is because this will force the other side to try to step up their game to be even better. Right now, Marvel seems to have a formula to make really good movies, and until DC steps up their game, they won't have any reason to change that formula. Marvel already took big risk getting to this point with a shared universe, and now all they need to do is keep on doing what they're doing, and they'll have no problem topping DC. DC needs to step up their game if they want to compete. And if they actually compete, they could make Marvel better. And by making Marvel better, DC could find itself in a position where they need to step up their game again. That's why the competition between these two companies means better quality comic book movies for the fans. But if one company is satisfied with only half-assing it, then the debate becomes far less interesting and starts becoming kind of sad. DC and Warner Brothers are in dire straits right now, but if Suicide Squad and Wonder Woman are solid, it will go a long way to helping not just the DC Extended Universe, but also all comic book movies in general. And while Justice League Part 1 is currently being filmed with Zack Snyder at the helm, probably because it would be too expensive to replace him at the last minute, they did name Ben Affleck as executive producer and Geoff Johns as, for all intents and purposes, the Kevin Feige of the DCEU, which can only help the franchise. Will this be enough to save Justice League Part 1? Probably not. But I have been wrong before. Hey, if you like this video, please make sure to hit that like button and go ahead and subscribe. That helps me out a lot. And if you really love this video, consider visiting my Patreon page.